Have you ever met someone who left you feeling uneasy, even though you couldn't explain why? Maybe their smile seemed warm, but something inside you whispered that it wasn't real. Maybe their words sounded kind, but the way they looked at you made your chest tighten. We often brush off these feelings, convincing ourselves that we're imagining things, but deep down, you know when something is off. That gut feeling is your natural alarm, and too often, we silence it out of politeness or fear of being wrong. The truth is, not everyone you meet has good intentions, and some people, though they hide it well, carry darkness behind their charm. Life teaches us to trust, to forgive, to give others the benefit of the doubt. And while those are beautiful values, they can also make you vulnerable to people who are not simply flawed, but harmful. You see, there is a difference between someone who makes mistakes because they are human and someone who deliberately manipulates, deceives, and hurts without remorse. The latter is not just a difficult person. The latter is what we call evil. And recognizing that difference may be one of the most important skills you will ever develop, because your peace, your energy, and even your future depend on it. Think about how many times in life you stayed in situations that drained you. How many times you questioned yourself because someone made you feel like the problem, when in reality they were slowly breaking you down. That confusion is not an accident, it's their design. Evil people thrive when you doubt yourself, when you silence your instincts, when you put their comfort above your own well-being. And if you've ever felt stuck in that cycle, you're not alone. Countless strong, intelligent people have fallen into the same trap because these individuals are skilled at disguising their true nature. But here's the powerful truth. Once you learn the signs, you can't be fooled anymore. Once you see the patterns, clearly you take back control. You stop wasting time on people who secretly root for your downfall. You stop giving your kindness to those who twist it into a weapon. You stop sacrificing your peace for someone who never had your best interest in the first place. And when you do that, you free yourself to grow, to heal, and to rise higher than you ever thought possible. That is why this message matters. It's not just about identifying toxic behavior. It's about reclaiming your life. Every time you recognize an evil person for who they truly are, you strengthen your boundaries, you sharpen your instincts, and you protect the dreams you've worked so hard to build. Imagine living without second-guessing yourself, without carrying the weight of someone else's hidden agenda. Imagine walking into relationships, friendships, and opportunities with clarity, confidence, and the certainty that you can spot the red flags before they drag you down. Stay with me, because in this journey, we're going to expose the masks. We're going to shine light on the shadows that evil people try to hide behind. And by the end, you will not only see them for who they are, you will see yourself for who you truly are. Stronger, wiser, and fully capable of protecting your heart, your mind, and your destiny. This isn't just knowledge, it's power, it's freedom. And once you have it, no one can ever take it away from you. The first thing you must understand is that evil rarely announces itself. It doesn't come into your life wearing a warning sign. It slips in quietly, often disguised as charm, generosity, or even vulnerability. That's why so many people get pulled into its grip without realizing it. You may meet someone who seems endlessly supportive at first, someone who flatters you, praises you, and makes you feel seen in a way others never have. And yet, beneath that surface, their attention is not genuine, it's bait. Their kindness is not rooted in care, it's a tool to lower your guard. Recognizing this is not about becoming cold or suspicious of everyone you meet. It's about protecting yourself from those who see kindness not as a gift, but as an opportunity to exploit. One of the strongest weapons these people use is confusion. They twist reality until you question your own memory, your own judgment, even your own worth. Think about it. How many times have you walked away from a conversation replaying it in your mind, asking yourself if you were overreacting, if maybe you were too sensitive, if maybe they were right and you were the problem? That seed of doubt, once planted, grows fast. And the more you doubt yourself, the easier it is for them to control the narrative. This is not a coincidence. This is a calculated strategy. Evil thrives when you hand over your confidence and let them rewrite the story of who you are. But here is where your strength lies. You don't have to accept their version of reality. You don't have to carry the weight of their lies. When you notice that pattern, when every conversation seems to leave you feeling smaller instead of stronger, That's your inner wisdom trying to wake you up. And once you allow yourself to trust that wisdom, you take back power they hoped you would never claim. You begin to see through the mask, and once you see, you can never unsee. This is the turning point that separates those who stay trapped from those who rise free. It's the decision to stop doubting your instincts, to stop apologizing for noticing the truth, and to start honoring the voice inside you that whispers, something is not right here. That voice is not weakness. It's survival. It's the same instinct that has protected humanity for thousands of years, the signal that danger is near even when everything looks safe on the surface. Ignoring it doesn't make you noble. Listening to it makes you strong. Every time you trust yourself enough to walk away from confusion, you reclaim a piece of your identity. You remember that your feelings are valid, your boundaries are sacred, and your life is worth protecting. You stop tolerating the slow erosion of your spirit, and you start choosing clarity over chaos, peace over conflict, and truth over deception. That choice transforms you. That choice rebuilds your confidence and creates a shield that no manipulator can penetrate. Stay rooted in this truth. Your heart is not naive for believing in good people, but it is wise for learning to spot the ones who aren't. And once you recognize that wisdom, you no longer fear evil. You expose it. You strip away its illusions. You refuse to let it define your worth, your direction, or your destiny. You rise above it, not because you are untouched by darkness, but because you are strong enough to face it and walk away without losing yourself. When you begin to recognize evil, one of the clearest patterns you'll notice is how relentlessly it feeds on control. These people are not content to let you live freely, to make your own choices, or to shine in your own light. They crave domination, even in subtle forms. It may start small, with suggestions that seem harmless, with opinions presented as guidance, with comments that appear caring. But over time, those small seeds grow into restrictions. You find yourself adjusting your words, changing your behavior, shrinking your dreams just to keep the peace. Without realizing it, your life starts to bend around their presence, and the person you used to be fades into the background. This is not love. This is not friendship. This is not care. This is control disguised as connection. And the more you give away pieces of yourself, the more they take. Evil people do not respect boundaries. They test them. Every time you allow them to cross a line, they push further. Every time you silence your discomfort, they hear permission to continue. It is never enough for them to have influence. They need dominance. They want to occupy your mind, shape your emotions, and keep you second-guessing your own independence. And the cruelest part is how they twist it to make you feel like you are choosing this, like you are the one who is being difficult if you resist. That is the trap of control. It disguises itself as care while stripping away your freedom. But your freedom is not negotiable. It is the core of your humanity, the foundation of your dignity, the birthplace of every dream you've ever had. To allow anyone to suffocate that freedom is to betray yourself at the deepest level. And that is why recognizing control is not just an act of awareness, it's an act of survival. The moment you see how someone is slowly stealing your choices, you can reclaim them. The moment you acknowledge the weight pressing down on your spirit, you can rise against it. And when you do, something powerful happens. You remember that you were never meant to live small, never meant to walk on eggshells, never meant to surrender your voice just to keep someone else comfortable. This realization awakens courage. At first, it may feel terrifying because breaking free from control often means facing conflict, rejection, or the loss of someone you once trusted. But the cost of staying silent is far greater. The cost is your identity. The cost is your peace. The cost is the life you were created to live. And when you weigh those costs honestly, you discover a strength inside you that cannot be tamed. You find a fire that whispers no more. You begin to set boundaries not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You begin to walk away not out of bitterness, but out of a deep commitment to your own growth. Remember this truth. Real love never demands your silence. Real friendship never requires your submission. Real connection does not shrink you, it expands you. Anyone who insists on control is revealing their weakness, not their strength. And you, by refusing to be controlled, are proving your courage, your resilience, and your unshakable worth. Once you stand firm in that power, evil loses its grip because it cannot control someone who has chosen to rise. Another mark you must never ignore is the way evil people drain your energy with constant negativity and criticism. They cannot celebrate your victories without finding a way to diminish them. They cannot watch you rise without trying to weigh you down. To them, your success is a threat, your joy is an irritation, your growth is a reminder of everything they are not. So instead of supporting you, they chip away at your confidence. They disguise insults as jokes. They hide judgment behind concern. They sprinkle doubt into moments that should have been filled with pride. And slowly, if you let their words sink in, you start to question whether you are as capable, as deserving, or as strong as you once believed. That erosion of self-belief is not accidental. It is deliberate. The cruel genius of constant criticism is how it makes you look inward, searching for flaws instead of outward, noticing their manipulation. You start spending energy fixing yourself when in reality, there was nothing broken. You apologize for being ambitious. You shrink your light so it doesn't attract their disapproval. You hesitate before taking steps forward, not because you are unready, but because their voice is echoing in your head. And that is exactly what they want. Evil people don't just want to limit you in the present. They want to plant seeds of insecurity that hold you back long after they are gone. They aim to live rent-free in your mind, turning you into your own biggest obstacle. But here's the truth they never want you to realize. No one's criticism has power unless you accept it as truth. Their words only pierce when you hand them the authority to define your worth. And once you recognize that authority was never theirs to hold, you take it back. You remember that your value is not measured by their approval. Your worth is not determined by their perspective. Your future is not shaped by their negativity. The only voice that has the right to guide you is the one inside that says, I am capable, I am resilient, I am enough. When you reclaim that voice, criticism loses its grip. What once felt like a dagger becomes nothing more than noise. What once kept you small becomes fuel to grow stronger. You stop bending under the weight of their negativity and start standing taller because you've learned that their words reveal more about their emptiness than your potential. The truth is, people who are fulfilled, people who are strong, people who are whole, they don't tear others down. They lift them up. They celebrate their wins. They support their growth. Anyone who does the opposite is revealing the darkness within them, not the weakness within you. And once you see that clearly, you stop giving away your energy to battles that don't deserve you. You save your strength for your goals, your dreams, your healing, your purpose. You stop replaying their insults and start replaying your vision. That shift transforms you because no longer are you living in reaction to their negativity. You are living in alignment with your destiny. And when you rise into that space, their criticism becomes irrelevant. Their attempts to diminish you become powerless, and your light shines brighter than ever before. Another pattern that reveals itself is the way evil people thrive on deception. Lies are not just occasional tools for them. They are the foundation of how they operate. They lie to protect their image. They lie to gain advantage. They lie to keep control. And often, the lies are so carefully crafted, so convincingly delivered, that you doubt your own senses before you doubt them. They create layers of falsehoods, weaving half-truths with just enough reality to make them believable, and in the process, they trap you in a web of confusion. When you try to hold them accountable, they shift the story. When you ask questions, they deflect with charm or anger. When you bring evidence, they twist it until you feel guilty for even noticing. This is not random. Deception is their weapon of choice because truth is too fragile for them to face. They fear truth because truth exposes them. They manipulate reality because reality will shatter the image they work so hard to project. And when you're caught in that cycle, you begin to doubt not only them, but yourself. You question your ability to recognize honesty. You wonder if maybe you are too suspicious, too unforgiving, too demanding. That self-doubt is the exact outcome they hope for, because as long as you are questioning yourself, you will not fully question them. But the moment you decide to trust your own perception, the game changes. You begin to notice inconsistencies. You hear the difference between words and actions. You sense the unease in your chest when something doesn't align. And once you allow yourself to honor those signals instead of silencing them, you step into clarity. Lies can only live in darkness, but when you shine awareness on them, they crumble. What once felt like a maze starts to reveal its exits. What once felt impossible to escape becomes a doorway to freedom. Understand this. The ability to see through deception is not about becoming cynical. It's about becoming wise. It's about valuing your truth so deeply that no one can convince you to abandon it. When you strengthen that muscle of discernment, you protect yourself from being pulled into webs that were never meant to hold you. You stop wasting time on explanations that will never add up. You stop exhausting yourself trying to fix someone who survives on dishonesty. Instead, you conserve your energy for building a life rooted in integrity, clarity, and trust. And here lies the most empowering part. When you choose truth, you separate yourself from the games they play. You no longer dance in the shadows of half-truths. You stand firmly in the light of your own awareness. You refuse to let their lies dictate your direction or their manipulation shape your reality. That choice restores your confidence, strengthens your boundaries, and lifts the fog that once clouded your vision. When you hold on to truth, evil loses one of its sharpest weapons. Lies cannot survive in the presence of someone who sees clearly, who refuses to be silenced, who values inner peace more than false appearances. That person can be you. That strength can be yours. And once it is, deception no longer controls your life. You do. Perhaps the darkest sign of all is the absence of empathy. Evil people are not simply careless with the feelings of others, they are indifferent. They do not feel guilt for causing pain. They do not lose sleep over the harm they've done. Instead, they view compassion as weakness, something to exploit rather than something to honor. When you cry, they may appear unmoved. When you suffer, they may offer empty words but no real care. And sometimes they go further. They take pleasure in your discomfort, feeding on the power it gives them to see you hurt. This lack of empathy is not a flaw to be fixed. It is a void, a hollow space where humanity should be. And once you see it clearly, you must not excuse it or believe you can change it. The danger of staying close to someone without empathy is how it erodes your spirit over time. You may begin to normalize the coldness, telling yourself they just express love differently, that maybe you're asking too much, that maybe your expectations are the problem. But deep down, your heart knows the truth. You feel the sting of their indifference every time your vulnerability is met with silence. You feel the ache when your joy is ignored or dismissed. You feel the emptiness when you give your all and receive nothing in return. That slow starvation of emotional connection is a silent poison, leaving you drained, unseen, and unheard. Yet here's where your power awakens, when you recognize that empathy is not optional in healthy human connection. It is the lifeline that binds souls together, the foundation of trust, the force that makes relationships healing instead of harmful. And you deserve that lifeline. You deserve to be met with understanding when you open your heart. You deserve to be celebrated when you share your victories. You deserve to be comforted when you face struggles. Anyone who withholds that empathy is not protecting themselves. They are revealing the truth about their nature. The moment you stop excusing the absence of empathy is the moment you reclaim your right to expect more. You stop lowering your standards to keep someone in your life who has already proven they cannot meet you where you stand. You stop begging for scraps of compassion and begin demanding the fullness of authentic connection. And when you make that shift, something profound happens. You realize you were never asking for too much. You were simply asking the wrong person. This realization is liberating. It frees you from the cycle of trying to prove your worth to someone incapable of seeing it. It frees you from the illusion that your love can repair a heart that has no capacity for care. It frees you from mistaking neglect for strength and cruelty for honesty. Instead, you begin to see clearly that real strength is in kindness, that real courage is in compassion, that real humanity is in the ability to feel with and for others. And as you embrace that truth, you step into a higher standard for your life. You surround yourself with those who can feel your pain as if it were their own, who can share your happiness as if it were theirs, who can walk beside you not to control or diminish you, but to support and uplift you. That is the world you were meant to live in. That is the connection your soul has been searching for. And when you choose it, you rise beyond the reach of those who lack empathy, leaving their emptiness behind as you step fully into the richness of love, compassion, and true human connection. There is another sign that cuts even deeper, the way evil people use others as tools. To them, relationships are not sacred, they are strategies. Every interaction is calculated, every gesture measured against what they can gain. They do not see people as human beings with feelings, dreams, and dignity. They see them as resources to be drained, pawns to be moved, objects to be used. And the more value you offer, the more they cling to you. not out of love or respect, but out of greed. They study your weaknesses, your kindness, your desires, and then they turn those very things against you. What feels like connection on the surface is, at its core, exploitation. The danger lies in how easy it is to mistake their interest for care. At first, it may feel flattering to be so needed, to feel like you matter in their life. But as time passes, you begin to notice a pattern. Your giving is endless, their taking is constant, and balance never comes. They show up when they need something, but vanish when you are in need. They ask for your time, your energy, your loyalty. But when you ask for theirs, excuses flow like water. And if you dare to resist, to set a boundary, they may turn to guilt, shame, or anger, reminding you of everything they've done for you, exaggerating debts you never owe, manipulating you into believing you are selfish for even thinking of yourself. This is not love. This is not friendship. This is parasitism designed to keep you weak while they grow strong. And if you let it continue, it will drain not just your energy, but your sense of worth. You will begin to believe your only value is in what you provide, that your worth is measured by how much you can give away. That belief is the ultimate theft, because it convinces you to betray yourself on their behalf. But here's the truth you must hold on to with everything you have. You are not an object to be used. You are not a tool for someone else's comfort. You are a human being with infinite value, and anyone who cannot honor that does not deserve your presence. When you awaken to this, you reclaim your power from the hands of those who sought to drain it. You stop apologizing for saying no. You stop sacrificing your needs to serve someone else's endless hunger. You stop believing that love means exhaustion. The moment you draw that line, the dynamic shifts. Evil people lose their grip because they can no longer feed on what you refuse to give. And while they may rage, while they may accuse, while they may try every tactic to pull you back into their cycle, you will stand taller because you now understand the truth. Your worth is not defined by what others take from you. It is defined by the strength you hold within. When you choose relationships rooted in mutual respect, you no longer live in fear of being drained. You no longer live under the weight of endless demands. You live in balance, in reciprocity, in connection that nourishes instead of depleting. That is the kind of life you deserve. That is the kind of love you were born for. And once you know this, once you refuse to be used, you break free from the grasp of those who sought only to consume you. You rise beyond exploitation into a life where your value is honored, your energy protected, and your spirit unshakable. What makes these encounters even more dangerous is how evil people master the art of isolation. They know that as long as you are surrounded by support, their influence has limits. So they work quietly, slowly, to pull you away from the voices that could remind you of your strength. At first, it might look like concern. They may suggest that certain friends don't truly understand you, that family members are against you, that others are jealous of what you have. Their words sound protective, but their intent is poisonous. Each seed of doubt they plant is meant to distance you from those who might expose their manipulation. Over time, you begin to notice the gap widening. Invitations become fewer, conversations feel strained. The people who once filled your life with energy seem further and further away. And in that silence, the manipulator's voice grows louder because now you have fewer perspectives to counter their narrative. This is not accidental. Isolation is one of the oldest tactics of control because when you stand alone, you are easier to break. But the truth is, you are never as alone as they want you to believe. The strength within you has always been there, waiting to be remembered. And even if connections have been damaged, they can be rebuilt. Even if bridges were burned, new ones can be created. Evil thrives in your solitude, but you thrive in connection with yourself, with truth, with those who reflect your worth back to you. And once you awaken to this, isolation loses its hold. It begins with recognizing the lies for what they are. Anyone who encourages you to cut ties with every source of support is not protecting you. They are protecting their power over you. Real love does not demand isolation. Real love welcomes community, celebrates healthy connection, and never fears the presence of other voices in your life. That understanding frees you from the illusion they work so hard to build. And when you take steps to reconnect, something incredible happens. The fog starts to lift. The weight on your chest begins to lighten. You remember laughter. You remember encouragement. You remember what it feels like to be seen without strings attached. Those moments rebuild the foundation of your strength brick by brick until the walls of isolation crumble completely. Even more powerful, you learn that your connection to yourself is unbreakable. No matter how much someone tries to silence it, the truth inside you never dies. It waits for the moment you are ready to listen again. And when you do, it guides you back to freedom. It reminds you that you are worthy of community, worthy of love, worthy of relationships that empower instead of imprison. Breaking free from isolation is more than escaping someone else's control. It is choosing to step back into the fullness of life. It is choosing voices that uplift, environments that heal, people who celebrate your growth instead of fearing it. And when you make that choice, evil loses one of its strongest weapons. You are no longer trapped in silence. You are surrounded by light, by truth, by support that restores you. That is where your strength multiplies. That is where your spirit becomes untouchable. And that is where you rise into the life you were always meant to live. When isolation no longer works, evil often turns to chaos. They create storms where none exist, stirring conflict, tension, and drama to keep you off balance. They know that when your world feels unstable, when your emotions are constantly triggered, you are easier to control. One moment they may be warm, the next cold. One day they may shower you with praise, the next tear you down without warning. This unpredictability is not a flaw in their character. It is a deliberate tactic. By keeping you guessing, by forcing you to walk on eggshells, they ensure your focus stays on them rather than on your own growth. Chaos becomes the air you breathe, and before long, you mistake it for normal. You tell yourself relationships are supposed to be hard, that constant tension is just a part of life, that maybe stability is a dream only other people get to experience. And that belief is what they want, because the more you normalize their chaos, the more you accept a life far beneath what you deserve. But the truth is simple and undeniable. Peace is your natural state. Peace is not boring. Peace is not weakness. Peace is the ground where love, creativity, and purpose flourish. Evil despises peace because peace gives you clarity, and clarity reveals who they truly are. So they keep the waters turbulent, hoping you will never see clearly enough to walk away. The moment you understand this, you reclaim your right to calm. You recognize that stability is not too much to ask. It is the bare minimum of any healthy connection. You stop mistaking adrenaline for passion or conflict for intensity, and you start valuing serenity as the strength it truly is. And when you begin to pursue peace relentlessly, you pull yourself out of the storm they build around you. This requires courage, because choosing peace often means stepping away from people who thrive on drama. It may mean silence instead of argument, distance instead of engagement, boundaries instead of compromise. At first, it feels uncomfortable because you've grown used to the noise. But as the silence settles, you begin to feel something you haven't felt in a long time: freedom. Your thoughts clear, your energy returns, your heart remembers what it's like to beat without fear. And from that place of calm, you grow stronger than ever. Chaos no longer has the power to control you because you see it for what it is: a distraction, a smokescreen, a strategy designed to keep you trapped. But you are no longer trapped. You are awake, you are aware, you are determined to guard your peace with everything you have, because you now understand it's the foundation of your future. When you protect your peace, you deny evil its playground. You strip away the fuel it needs to survive. You stop being a participant in battles that were never yours to fight. And in that stillness, you discover your true power, not in reacting to chaos, but in choosing peace over and over again until it becomes your way of life. That choice transforms everything. That choice makes you untouchable. That choice opens the door to a life where clarity reigns, stability grows, and your spirit shines without interference. Once peace begins to grow inside you, evil's influence weakens, but there is still one final tactic it often clings to: fear. Fear is its most powerful weapon because it reaches into the deepest parts of your mind. It whispers that you are too weak to leave, too dependent to survive, too unworthy to find better. It tells you that walking away means losing everything, that choosing yourself means being alone, that stepping into freedom is far more dangerous than staying where you are. Fear is the chain they hope you never break, because as long as you believe it, you will remain trapped in their grip. Fear thrives in uncertainty. It magnifies the unknown, painting it darker than reality, convincing you that suffering you already know is safer than the freedom you can't yet see. And so you hesitate, not because you want to stay, but because you're terrified of what life looks like without them. This is how evil survives, not through strength, but through the illusion of your weakness. They don't actually hold the power. They simply convince you to give yours away. But the moment you see fear for what it is, its hold begins to crumble. Fear is not truth. Fear is not destiny. Fear is nothing more than a story your mind has rehearsed too many times. And you have the power to rewrite it. Every step you take toward freedom, no matter how small, weakens fear's voice. Every act of courage, no matter how quiet, proves that you are stronger than the chains trying to hold you down. And here lies the greatest secret. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. Courage means moving forward in spite of it. Courage is deciding that your future is worth more than your comfort. Courage is choosing to step into the unknown because the known has been suffocating you for far too long. And once you taste that courage, fear loses its authority. Think about what waits for you on the other side of fear. A life where your voice is free, where your boundaries are respected, where your joy is no longer dependent on someone else's permission. A life where you no longer walk in shadows, but in light. A life where you rise each day knowing you are not under anyone's control but your own. That is not a fantasy. That is the reality that becomes possible the moment you stop feeding fear and start feeding your courage. The chains that bind you are not unbreakable. They were only ever as strong as your belief in them. And when you choose to believe in yourself instead, those chains fall. Evil cannot hold someone who has discovered their own strength. Evil cannot silence someone who has found their own voice. Evil cannot stop someone who has decided that fear is no longer their master. Your freedom begins with one choice. The choice to stop letting fear dictate your steps. The choice to trust that you are capable of more than you have been told. The choice to see yourself not as weak, but as unshakably strong. That choice is the doorway. Step through it and fear dissolves, power returns, and your life becomes your own again. The moment you break through fear, you begin to understand something life-changing. Your worth was never in question. Evil people work tirelessly to convince you otherwise because if they can make you forget your value, they can control everything about you. They chip away at your confidence. They distort your reflection. They try to convince you that you are only as good as their approval. But the truth is, your worth is not given by anyone else. It is inherent, unshakable, and untouchable. It has been with you since the day you were born, and no amount of lies or manipulation can erase it. The greatest battle is not convincing others of your value, but remembering it for yourself. When you stand in your worth, their insults lose power. When you recognize your value, their games fall apart. When you honor yourself fully, you become impossible to control. And that is why reclaiming your worth is such a revolutionary act. It dismantles every weapon evil once used against you. This reclamation starts with a decision. The decision to stop measuring yourself by someone else's standard. The decision to stop giving weight to the opinions of those who only sought to break you. The decision to see yourself clearly, not through the distorted lens of manipulation, but through the truth of your own being. You are not weak because you trusted. You are not broken because you were deceived. You are not lesser because you were hurt. If anything, surviving their darkness proves your strength, your resilience, your incredible ability to endure and rise again. When you embrace that truth, something powerful awakens inside you. You stop apologizing for your existence. You stop questioning whether you are enough. You begin to move through the world with a quiet confidence that does not need validation, and people feel it. The same energy that once attracted manipulators now begins to attract those who see your light, who respect your boundaries, who celebrate your presence. And the more you live in that awareness, the more unstoppable you become. Because once you know your worth, compromise is no longer an option. You no longer settle for half love, for broken trust, for one-sided relationships that drain you. You no longer accept crumbs when you deserve the feast. You walk differently, you speak differently, you choose differently, and every choice builds a life that reflects the truth you now believe, that you are worthy of peace, worthy of respect, worthy of joy, worthy of love that is real and lasting. Evil cannot coexist with someone who has embraced their worth. It cannot diminish someone who refuses to shrink. It cannot change someone who knows they were born to be free. And that is what makes this transformation so powerful. The same tactics that once crushed you now reveal themselves as powerless illusions. You see them for what they are, Weak attempts to dim a light too strong to ever be extinguished. Hold on to this truth. Your worth is not up for debate. Not today, not ever. It is the foundation of your strength, the anchor of your identity, the shield that guards your future. And once you live from that place, you rise into a life where evil has no seat at your table, no claim on your heart, no power over your destiny. You walk forward unafraid, unbroken, and unstoppable. When you begin to live from the certainty of your worth, a new clarity sharpens your vision. You start to notice patterns you once ignored, and you recognize the red flags that used to blend into the background. This awareness is not paranoia, it is wisdom. It is the strength to see without denial, the courage to accept what is real, and the power to act before harm takes root. And with that awareness comes responsibility, the responsibility to protect your energy, your heart, and your future from anyone who seeks to diminish them. Boundaries become the natural extension of your worth. They are not walls that keep love out. They are gates that decide what love gets in. A boundary says, this is who I am, this is what I deserve, and this is what I will not tolerate. And when you enforce those boundaries, you no longer leave space for evil to creep into your life disguised as kindness. You no longer entertain people who feed on your time, your peace, or your energy. You no longer explain yourself endlessly to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you conserve your power for what truly matters, your growth, your joy, your purpose. At first, setting boundaries may feel uncomfortable, even frightening. You may fear rejection. You may fear judgment. But remember this, the people who are meant to walk with you will never be threatened by your strength. They will respect your limits, honor your needs, and celebrate your voice. Only those who sought to control you will resist. And their resistance is not a sign that you are wrong. It is proof that you are finally standing in your truth. This shift is transformative. Boundaries do not just protect you from harm. They create the space where love, peace, and fulfillment can flourish. They are the container that allows your light to grow brighter without being drained. They are the foundation that ensures your life is built on respect, not exploitation. And once you begin living with strong boundaries, your relationships change, your decisions change, your entire reality changes. Evil people cannot survive in an environment of boundaries. They require access to your time, your energy, and your trust without limits. They require a doorway into your life that never closes. But when you close that door, when you lock it with the strength of your self-respect, they have no entry point left. Their power dissolves because they can no longer touch the parts of you that once made you vulnerable. And with every boundary you uphold, you reinforce the truth that your life is yours, not theirs, not anyone else's, yours. It is your responsibility to protect it, to nurture it, to guide it toward the future you were meant to create. Boundaries are not selfish, they are sacred. They are the way you honor your worth in action, not just in thought. When you embrace this, you step into a life where respect is the standard, peace is the norm, and love is authentic. You no longer wait for others to grant you dignity, you demand it by the way you live. And in that space, evil finds no foothold because you have claimed every part of yourself as untouchable. This is the strength that sets you free. This is the power that ensures your future belongs only to you. The moment you learn to guard your life with boundaries, you also awaken to the importance of choosing where your energy flows. What you feed will grow, and what you starve will die. Evil people depend on your focus, your attention, your emotional reactions. They thrive on the energy you give them, whether it's anger, confusion, or the desperate effort to prove yourself. But when you reclaim control over your focus, you take away their oxygen. You stop fueling their games, and instead you begin to fuel your own growth. This shift is not about ignoring reality. It is about redirecting power. Every thought you dwell on, every conversation you engage in, every ounce of emotion you invest becomes a seed planted in your future. Ask yourself what kind of future you want. A life filled with constant battles against shadows, or a life filled with peace, strength, and purpose? The answer becomes clear when you understand that your energy is your currency, and you are the only one who decides where to spend it. Choosing wisely begins with noticing what drains you versus what restores you. Notice the conversations that leave you heavy and the ones that lift you. Notice the environments that suffocate your spirit and the ones that inspire you to grow. Notice the people who shrink your vision and the ones who expand it. This awareness allows you to make choices that align with your worth. You stop wasting your days trying to change people committed to staying the same. You stop pouring love into places that only return emptiness. You stop fighting battles that were never yours to begin with. Instead, you invest in what strengthens you. You pour energy into healing, into learning, into building, into relationships that reflect your value. You feed the fire of your dreams instead of the emptiness of someone else's manipulation. And over time, you realize that the less you give to darkness, the less space it has to exist in your life. This is how transformation happens, not always with dramatic exits, but with daily choices to turn your focus toward the light. Evil cannot hold on to someone who no longer engages with its traps. It cannot manipulate someone who no longer takes the bait. It cannot drain someone who no longer offers endless supply. And this is where true freedom begins. You realize you don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to answer every lie. You don't have to fix what was never yours to fix. All you have to do is decide where your energy belongs and refuse to spend it on anything less than the life you are building. This kind of discipline creates a powerful ripple effect. As you stop giving energy to destruction, your life begins to overflow with creation. You start to see progress where there used to be chaos. You start to feel peace where there used to be noise. You start to attract people and opportunities that align with the new energy you carry. And slowly but surely, your reality reshapes itself to reflect the choices you've made. Every moment you choose where to focus, you are shaping your future. And when your energy is invested in what honors you, evil loses every advantage it once had. You step fully into your power, no longer as someone merely surviving, but as someone creating a life rooted in strength, clarity, and unstoppable momentum. As you rise into this new clarity, one truth becomes undeniable. Healing is not a luxury, it is a necessity. You cannot step fully into your power while carrying the weight of old wounds that were never yours to bear. Evil people leave behind scars, some visible, many invisible. They plant seeds of doubt, shame, and self-blame, hoping they will grow into chains that keep you tied to the past. But healing is the act of refusing to water those seeds. Healing is a conscious choice to pull them out by the root and replace them with something stronger, something truer, something that reflects who you really are. Healing begins with honesty. Honesty about what you endured, honesty about the pain you carry, honesty about how deeply it affected you. Denial may feel safer, but it traps you in silence. Pretending it didn't hurt does not erase the damage, it only delays the restoration. Real courage is found in admitting the depth of your wounds because only then can they be transformed. And when you face them with open eyes, you take back the power from the lies that once told you to hide. Healing is not about forgetting, it is about remembering differently. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of cruelty, you begin to see yourself as a survivor of it. Instead of defining yourself by the pain, you define yourself by the strength that carried you through it. Every scar becomes evidence not of your weakness, but of your resilience. Every tear becomes proof that you still had the heart to feel, even when someone tried to harden you. Every step forward becomes a declaration that their darkness failed to consume your light. This process is not always quick. Healing unfolds in layers, sometimes in silence, sometimes in breakthroughs, sometimes in setbacks that remind you of how far you've come. But every step is movement, every breath is progress, and every choice to keep going proves that your spirit is far stronger than anything that tried to break it. You do not have to rush. You only have to commit to keep choosing yourself, to keep choosing life, to keep choosing freedom no matter how long it takes. And with every layer you release, more space opens inside you for peace, joy, and clarity. You begin to laugh without guilt. You begin to rest without fear. You begin to love without the constant shadow of betrayal. The weight lifts, and what remains is the truth of who you are, whole, worthy, unbroken at your core. Evil cannot survive in a healed heart. It thrives on open wounds. But once those wounds close, once they are sealed with wisdom and strength, its power evaporates. What was once a weakness becomes your greatest defense. Because you now recognize the signs, you now know the tactics, and you now refuse to let them touch you again. Healing is not just about recovering from the past. It is about reclaiming the future. It is the foundation on which you will build a life that reflects your highest truth. And when you embrace this journey, you rise not only for yourself, but for everyone who will one day look at you and see proof that freedom is possible, that strength is real, and that no darkness is greater than the light of a healed and awakened soul.